The door creaked open like a confession I never meant to hear, and there she was, Evelyn, my stepmother, silhouetted against the dying light of the Andalusian sunset, her hands trembling as she clutched a faded photograph to her chest. "Harper," she whispered, her voice cracking like dry earth underfoot. "You weren't supposed to see this." But I had, and in that splintered second, the world tilted, the secrets we'd both buried in the sun-baked hills of West Spain spilling out like wine from a shattered glass. I froze in the threshold of her bedroom in our rented villa outside Ronda, the air thick with the scent of jasmine and regret. At 22, I'd come back early from my aimless wanderings through the whitewashed streets of the old town, my sketchpad tucked under my arm, dreaming of capturing the rugged cliffs that mirrored the jagged edges of my own heart. Dad had dragged us here 6 months ago, chasing some half-baked notion of family renewal after Mom's death 2 years back. A gap year in Spain, he called it, but it felt more like exile. Evelyn, with her poised grace and quiet sorrows, had been the glue holding our fractured trio together, or so I'd thought. Until now. The photograph fluttered to the floor between us, landing face up. A grainy snapshot of 2 young women in their 20s, arms wrapped around each other on a foggy San Francisco beach, laughing into the wind. One had wild curls like mine, Harper, my mother, before cancer hollowed her out. The other. God, it was Evelyn. Younger, freer, her eyes alight with the joy I'd only glimpsed in stolen moments. My throat tightened. "That's you and Mom." The words escaped before I could cage them, raw and accusing. Evelyn sank onto the edge of the 4-poster bed, her silk blouse whispering against the linen sheets. She was 45, but the lines around her eyes spoke of deeper etchings, losses stacked like stones in a crumbling wall. "Yes," she said softly, not meeting my gaze. "We were everything to each other, Harper. Before your father. Before all of this." Her fingers traced the photo's edge, and I saw it then, the tremor, the unspoken ache. Not just grief for my mother, but something fiercer. A love that had been forced into silence. I stepped inside, the door clicking shut behind me like a vow. The room was a sanctuary of faded elegance. Terracotta tiles cool under my bare feet, walls adorned with Evelyn's watercolors of the Serrania de Ronda's jagged peaks. She'd taken up painting when we arrived, saying the light here heals what words can't. I'd watched her from afar, brush in hand, her focus a quiet rebellion against the role she'd slipped into: stepmother, wife, keeper of peace. But now, with that photo between us, the distance I'd maintained crumbled. "Why didn't you tell me?" I demanded, my voice sharper than intended. "All this time pretending to be just Dad's second chance. You loved her. You loved her like I shouldn't have," Evelyn finished, her hazel eyes finally lifting to mine. They were the color of aged whiskey, warm and wounding. "Your mother and I, we met in college, Harper. Shared a tiny apartment in the Mission District, dreamed of galleries and gardens. But she fell for your father first. Chose the life he offered, the stability, the family. I stepped aside, watched from the shadows as she built this beautiful, heartbreaking world with him. And when she got sick," Evelyn's voice faltered, and she pressed a hand to her mouth, as if to hold back the flood. I crossed the room in 3 strides, dropping to my knees before her. The sketchpad slid from my grasp, pages splaying open to half-finished drawings of her. Evelyn laughing at a market stall, Evelyn reading by the fountain, Evelyn staring out at the stars with that faraway look that made my chest ache. I told myself it was admiration, artistic curiosity. But now, with the truth laid bare, it felt like recognition. "You stayed," I murmured, picking up the photo. Our faces, hers and my mother's, mirrored in ways I'd never noticed. The same tilt of the chin, the same guarded smile. "After she died, you married Dad. For me." She reached out then, her fingers brushing mine as she took the photo back. The touch was electric, a spark in the heavy air, and I didn't pull away. "Partly," she admitted. "He was lost without her. And you were so young, so fierce in your grief. I thought I could protect you both. Be the family you deserved." Her thumb grazed my knuckle, lingering a beat too long. "But Harper, I've carried this secret like a stone in my pocket. It weighs heavier here. In this place of old wounds and new light." The villa was our fragile haven, perched on a hillside where the Guadalquivir River carved secrets into the gorge below. Dad spent his days hiking the ancient paths or nursing a beer at the local taberna, lost in his own haze of what-ifs. He'd married Evelyn a year after Mom's funeral, a quiet ceremony in the backyard of our Oakland home, with me as the reluctant witness. She'd been Mom's best friend, the one who'd organized the casseroles and the support groups. It made sense on paper, continuity, comfort. But I'd always sensed the undercurrent, the way Evelyn's eyes would linger on old photos, or how she'd hum melodies from Mom's favorite jazz records when she thought no one was listening. That night, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, painting the sky in bruised purples, Evelyn and I sat on the balcony overlooking the valley. Dad was still out, chasing ghosts in the winding lanes. A bottle of Rioja stood between us, half empty, its ruby depths reflecting the flickering candles. "Tell me about her," I said, leaning forward. "About you too. The real story." Evelyn's laugh was soft, bittersweet. "We were reckless, Harper. Sneaking kisses in Golden Gate Park, writing manifestos on napkins about art and freedom. She was the dreamer, I was the anchor. Until I wasn't enough." She poured another glass, her movements deliberate, like she was measuring out her words. "When she left me for your dad, it shattered something. But I rebuilt. Became the friend who could stand by, smiling through the ache." I watched her lips form the words, the way the candlelight caught the silver threads in her dark hair. At 22, I was adrift, fresh out of art school. My portfolio a jumble of unfinished canvases. My heart a tangle of questions about love and loss. Mom's death had left me hollow, and Dad's remarriage had filled the space with something uneasy, unspoken. Evelyn had been the steady presence, packing my lunches for those first awkward college days, listening to my rants about failed relationships with boys who never quite fit. Boys. The word tasted wrong now, in the wake of that photo. What if she hadn't chosen him? I asked, my voice barely above the crickets' chorus. What if you'd run away together? Evelyn's gaze softened, drifting to the stars emerging like scattered diamonds. We talked about it once. A little cottage in Big Sur, waves crashing below. But life, it pulls you toward the safe harbors. She turned to me then, and in the dim light I saw echoes of Mom in her face, the curve of her jaw, the depth in her eyes. "And you, Harper? What's your harbor? You've been sketching me for weeks." "Why?" Heat flushed my cheeks, but I didn't look away. "Because you see me," I said simply, "in a way no one else does. Like you know the parts of me that are hers." The silence stretched, charged, until she reached across the table, her hand covering mine. "I do know you, Harper. More than you think." That touch lingered in my dreams that night, a promise or a warning. The next morning, over café con leche in the kitchen, Dad shuffled in, oblivious, his hiking boots caked in red clay. "Morning, ladies," he boomed, planting a kiss on Evelyn's cheek. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I excused myself to the studio, a converted shed where I'd set up my easel, and lost myself in charcoal strokes, Evelyn's profile taking shape on the page. Days blurred into a tentative rhythm. We'd explore the Pueblos Blancos, the hilltop villages with their labyrinthine streets and flower-draped patios. Evelyn would point out hidden fountains, sharing stories of Moorish queens and star-crossed lovers, her voice weaving magic into the stone. I'd capture it all, her laughter echoing off white walls, the way her scarf fluttered like a flag of surrender in the breeze. Dad trailed behind, content with his maps and memories. One afternoon, in the cool shade of the Arab baths in Ronda, Evelyn and I lingered while Dad napped in a nearby cafe. The air was damp, scented with moss and history, the arched ceilings dripping with the ghosts of ancient rituals. "This place feels like us," she said, trailing her fingers along the slick stone. "Layered secrets, water rushing beneath the surface." I stepped closer, the space between us shrinking. "Evelyn, what are we doing? This, whatever it is." Her breath caught, and she turned, her face inches from mine. Water echoed in the chamber, a heartbeat. "I don't know," she whispered. "But it scares me. And thrills me. Like the first time I kissed your mother under the bridge in the Presidio." The confession hung there, and before I could think, I closed the gap, my lips brushing hers in a tentative question. She stiffened, then softened, her hand cupping my cheek as if I were fragile porcelain. It was brief, a whisper of salt and sweetness, but it ignited something dormant, a flame I'd carried without name. We pulled apart, breathless, the world tilting anew. "Harper," she murmured, forehead against mine. "This can't." But it already had. And as we emerged into the blinding sunlight, hand in hand for the first time, I knew the real story was just beginning. The betrayal came not with thunder, but with the quiet click of a latch in the dead of night. 2 weeks after that kiss in the baths, I'd woken to the sound of muffled voices drifting from the living room, Dad's low rumble, Evelyn's measured tones. Slipping from my bed, I padded down the hall in my nightshirt, the villa's night air cool against my skin. Moonlight slanted through the windows, casting long shadows over the woven rugs. "You're leaving." Dad's voice was edged with hurt, the kind that simmers before it boils. "After everything? Spain was supposed to fix us, Evelyn." I pressed against the wall, heart pounding. "Fix us?" The words landed like stones. Evelyn's reply was steady but laced with sorrow. "It has, in a way. Show me what I need to let go of. I'm sorry, Tom. I love you as a friend, as the man who gave me a family. But not like that." A pause heavy as the gorge outside. Then the rustle of papers, divorce forms, I realized later. Dad's exhale was ragged. "Is it her? Harper." The world stopped. Evelyn's silence was answer enough. "Jesus, Evelyn. She's my daughter. Your stepdaughter. This isn't some fling." "It's not a fling," she cut in, fierce now. "It's clarity. After all these years of pretending, of burying what I felt for Sarah, Harper sees me, Tom. Truly. And I see her, the fire, the art, the pain that's so much like her mother's." Dad's chair scraped back. "You're destroying us." "For what?" A ghost's echo. I couldn't breathe. Slipping back to my room, I curled under the covers, tears hot on my cheeks. Clarity. That's what she'd called it. But to him it was betrayal. The unraveling of the life he'd clung to since Mom's death. I hated myself for the joy flickering beneath the guilt, the way my pulse raced at the thought of her choosing me. Dawn broke gray and unforgiving. Dad was gone by breakfast, off to Malaga for space. His note terse, "Need time. Love you both." Evelyn found me in the studio, charcoal smudged on my fingers, a half-erased sketch of the three of us crumbling under my strokes. "He knows," I said flatly, not looking up. She nodded, leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed like armor. "I told him. It was the only honest thing left." "Honest?" I echoed, bitterness rising. "You make it sound so noble. But Dad, he built his world around you. Around us pretending." Evelyn crossed the room, kneeling beside me. Her scent, lavender and earth, wrapped around me like a shawl. "I never meant to hurt him, Harper. Or you. But living a lie. It's poisoned everything. Your mother taught me that, in the end." On her hospital bed she whispered, "Live true, Ev. For both of us." I haven't. Until now. I met her eyes, stormy with unshed tears. And what if this truth destroys us too? What if I'm just a mistake? A way to reclaim her? Her hand found mine, steadying. "No. You're you. The girl who sketches sunsets like they're secrets. Who dances in the rain like it's absolution. I've fallen for that, Harper. Not her shadow." We kissed then, properly, slow, searching, the easel tipping as I pulled her close. Her lips were soft, insistent, tasting of salt and resolve. My hands tangled in her hair, the silver strands cool against my skin. It was a claiming, a bridge over the chasm Dad's words had carved. But as we broke apart, gasping, the weight settled. We'd crossed a line and there was no undrawing it. The days that followed were a fever dream of stolen moments. With Dad in Malaga, the villa became ours. A canvas for tentative explorations. We'd cook paella in the courtyard, saffron staining our fingers gold, laughing over botched recipes and shared stories of Mom's kitchen disasters. Evelyn would read poetry by Lorca under the olive tree, her voice husky with the cadence of old loves, while I'd sketch her profile against the horizon, capturing the vulnerability she'd hidden for so long. One evening, as thunder rumbled over the Sierras, we fled to the rooftop terrace. Rain lashed the tiles, soaking us through, but we didn't care. Evelyn pulled me into her arms, our wet clothes clinging like second skins. "I was so afraid," she confessed, rain streaking her face like tears. "Of this. Of loving again after losing her." I traced the line of her collarbone, feeling her pulse flutter. "I'm afraid too. But with you. It feels like coming home." We swayed to the storm's rhythm, bodies pressed close, hearts sinking in the downpour. It was romantic, raw, the kind of love stories whisper about but rarely deliver. Human, too, in its messiness. The guilt that nipped at my heels when Dad called, his voice hollow through the line. The fear that society, our society with its narrow scripts, would judge us as scandal, not salvation. Word traveled in Rhonda's close-knit expat circles. Whispers at the market. The American widow and her stepdaughter, ay Dios. Evelyn bore it with chin high, but I saw the toll. The way she'd retreat to her watercolors, blues bleeding into grays. They don't understand, she'd say. Love isn't a ledger. But understanding came hard. A letter arrived from Dad, forwarded from Malaga. I can't come back to this. File the papers. Tell Harper. Tell her I'm sorry I couldn't be enough. Betrayal twisted anew. Not his but ours. I'd failed him. The daughter who'd once promised to hold the family together. That night, conflict erupted. Evelyn and I argued in the kitchen, voices rising over the sizzle of garlic and olive oil. You think this is easy? I shouted, slamming a plate down. Dad's gone because of us. Because I walked in on your secret and it snowballed into this. She whirled, eyes flashing. This? You mean love, Harper? Or are you regretting it already? The complication, the stares. It's everything. Tears burned. I love you, Evelyn. God, I do. But it hurts. All of it, the past, the present, the what-ifs. She crossed to me, pulling me into an embrace that smelled of rain and resolve. Then let's hurt together. That's what family does, what love does. We rebuild. We made up on the tiled floor, whispers turning to promises, our bodies a tangle of comfort, not conquest. It was emotional, a dam breaking, sobs mingling with sighs, forgiveness woven into every touch. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving rainbows arching over the gorge. Yet the climax loomed, inevitable as the summer heat. Dad returned unannounced, suitcase in hand, face etched with exhaustion. He found us on the balcony, Evelyn's head on my shoulder, my fingers laced in hers. The air crackled. Harper, he said, voice breaking. What have we done? Dad's question hung in the lavender-scented air like smoke from a dying fire. His eyes, once so steady, now fractured with a pain that mirrored my own. He dropped his suitcase with a thud that echoed through the valley, the terracotta pots rattling on their stands. Evelyn rose slowly, her hand slipping from mine, but the warmth lingered, a defiant ember. Tom, she began, voice gentle as the Guadalevans murmur below. Come sit. Please. He shook his head, backing toward the door. Sit? And pretend this is tea with neighbors? I leave for a week, give you space to think, and come back to this. His gaze flicked between us, landing on me with accusation. Harper, you're my daughter. Sarah's daughter. How could you? The word stung, invoking Mom like a weapon. I stood, heart hammering. Dad, it's not, I didn't plan it. Just happened. Like Mom and Evelyn once. His face paled. Don't you dare compare this to them.
Sarah Chosme.
Built a life. You two. You're tearing it down. Evelyn stepped forward, her posture unyielding. We're not tearing, Tom. We're finally seeing. I love Harper, not as a replacement but as herself. And she loves me. This isn't betrayal. It's truth. Truth. He laughed, bitter and broken. Your truth cost me my wife and now my family. I married you to keep us whole, Evelyn. For her. He jabbed a finger at me. And now you've stolen her too. The accusation landed like a slap. Stolen. As if my heart were a possession, bartered in grief's marketplace. Dad, stop. I pleaded, tears blurring the horizon. I love you. But I can't pretend anymore. Not with her, not with any of it. He turned away, shoulders slumping. I need air. The door slammed behind him, leaving Evelyn and me in the wreckage, shattered illusions, the faint scent of his aftershave lingering like a ghost. That confrontation cracked open the fault lines we'd ignored. Dad moved into the guest room, a silent sentinel, his presence a constant pressure. Meals were minefields, forks scraping plates, unspoken barbs in the air. He'd watch me with Evelyn, our shared glances, the brush of hands, and his jaw would tighten, a vein pulsing at his temple. You're losing him, Evelyn whispered one night, as we lay tangled in her bed, the sheets cool against fevered skin. Moonlight filtered through the shutters, striping her face in silver. Pushing too hard. He's the one pushing, I murmured, tracing the freckles on her shoulder, faint echoes of my own. He wants the old us back. The pretend family. She sighed, pulling me closer. Maybe we give him time. Or space. What if we leave, Harper? Go back to the States. Start fresh. The idea terrified and tempted. America, our America with its sprawling coasts and hidden corners, held promise. A small apartment in Portland, rain-slick streets where love could bloom without scrutiny. But leaving Dad here, adrift in Spain's embrace, felt like abandonment. The conflict deepened at a local fiesta in Ronda, the streets alive with flamenco guitars and the stomp of heels on cobblestones. Dad insisted we go, as a family, one last try. Lanterns swayed from balconies, casting golden pools on the crowds. Evelyn wore a crimson dress that hugged her curves like a lover's promise, her hair pinned with jasmine. I chose a simple black frock, but her approving glance made me feel like royalty. We danced in the plaza, awkward at first, Dad twirling me stiffly, Evelyn partnering him with polite grace. But as the wine flowed and the music swelled, barriers thinned. A guitarist strummed a haunting solia, its minor chords evoking lost loves, and Evelyn pulled me into the fray. Our bodies moved instinctively, hips swaying, hands linked, the crowd a blur. Dad watched from the sidelines, his face a mask of resignation and regret. Later, under the Puente Nuevo's shadow, he cornered us. The bridge loomed above, a defiant arc over the gorge, wind whipping our skirts. I saw you out there, he said, voice raw. Like Sarah and Evelyn used to dance at weddings. It hurts, but I see it. The realness. Evelyn touched his arm. Tom, we're sorry for the pain. But we can't unlove. He nodded, eyes glistening. I know. And Harper. I was blind. To your grief, to what you needed. I thought marrying Evelyn would fix it, but I was just scared of being alone. Tears streamed down my face, mingling with the mist from the river below. I don't want to lose you, Dad. You won't, he said, pulling me into a hug, the first real one in months. But you have to go. Live your truth. I'll figure mine out here. Maybe paint like her. He glanced at Evelyn, a ghost of a smile. Take care of each other. It was a fragile truce laced with goodbye. That night, back at the villa, Dad packed for a solo trip to Granada, Alhambra's gardens, he said, to find some poetry. Evelyn and I saw him off at dawn, the road winding away like a ribbon unspooling. You're not a villain, Harper, she'd say, cupping my face in the dappled shade of cork oaks. You're human. Loving fiercely despite the cost. Romance bloomed in small acts. Picnics by hidden waterfalls, where we'd feed each other figs and dream of futures. Galleries in San Francisco, a garden cottage echoing Mom's big Sur fantasy. Emotional waves crashed too. Nights when grief for Mom surged, and we'd hold each other, whispering memories until dawn. But the true climax crested unexpectedly. In a letter from America. Aunt Clara, Mom's sister, had uncovered old journals in the Oakland attic. Pages from Evelyn and Mom's youth. Love letters disguised as poems, plans for escape scrawled in margins. Ev, my anchor in the storm. If I could rewind. Clara's note was accusatory. How dare you seduce her daughter? This family's cursed enough. The words ignited fury, then despair. Evelyn crumpled the letter, her face ashen. It's happening. The judgment. I snatched it, reading aloud, voice trembling. We can't let this define us. But it did for a moment. We argued, me raging at the intrusion, her retreating into silence. I told you, I cried. The past haunts us. She grabbed my wrists, eyes fierce. Then face it with me. We're not cursed, Harper. We're continuing. A love story unfinished. In the heat of it, we stormed the gorge's edge at sunset, the sky ablaze. Words flew like arrows. Accusations of recklessness, pleas for faith. Then silence. Evelyn dropped to her knees, not in defeat, but offering the journals. Read them. See us. Then decide. I did. There on the cliffside, pages fluttering in the wind. Mom's words, joy, regret, unyielding love. Evelyn's replies, steadfast, aching. It wasn't betrayal, it was legacy. A thread from them to us. I choose you, I said, pulling her up. Our kiss was desperate, the gorge yawning below like an open heart. In that vulnerability, climax broke, not in destruction but rebirth. We were the storm's eye, calm amid chaos. The journals became our compass, guiding us homeward. We left Spain in autumn, the almond trees heavy with promise, Rhonda shrinking to a postcard memory. Dad stayed, finding solace in the land's ancient rhythms. Letters arrived scented with time, filled with sketches of minarets and his slow mending. "Go build," he wrote. "I'll root here." America welcomed us with Pacific fog. A tiny flat in the Castro district, pink stucco walls, a balcony overlooking the hum of life. Evelyn's watercolors sold at local fairs, her style evolving. Bolder strokes, colors alive with our shared light. I enrolled in a master's program at CCA. My work shifting from shadows to illuminations. Portraits of women unbound, starting with her. Life wasn't flawless. Conflicts lingered. Family holidays strained, Aunt Clara's silence a chill wind. The world's casual cruelties, from sidelong glances to online trolls sniffing at our story. Betrayal echoed in small ways. A gallery curator's hesitant inspirational label on Evelyn's show, reducing us to trope. But love, deep and humanistic, anchored us. Mornings began with coffee on the fire escape. Evelyn's head on my lap as I read from Mom's journals, bridging generations. "She'd be proud," Evelyn would murmur, fingers interlacing. "Of this, of you." Romance wove through the mundane. Stolen dances in the kitchen to Nina Simone, her laughter bubbling as I burned toast. Weekend drives to Point Reyes where we'd chase waves and whisper futures. A joint exhibit, perhaps adoption one day, a garden echoing dreams. Emotion crested in waves, not tempests. Grief for Mom surfaced in quiet moments. Evelyn tracing my features, seeing Sarah's echo. "You're her legacy," she'd say, "but brighter." I'd counter with awe at her resilience. The woman who'd loved fiercely twice over without armor. One spring evening as cherry blossoms dusted the streets, we hosted Dad. He'd flown in, tanned and tentative, a bottle of Rioja in hand. The flat smelled of paella. Evelyn's nod to our beginnings. We sat on the worn sofa, journals open on the coffee table like an invitation. "I read them," Dad said, voice thick. "Clara sent copies. Harper, I'm sorry for not seeing sooner." I squeezed his hand. We all were blind. He looked at Evelyn, eyes softening. "You gave me peace, Ev. Even in the breaking." Tears fell, but they were cleansing, humanity and forgiveness. We toasted to Sarah, to truths unearthed, to loves that endure. As Dad departed, hugging us both fiercely, Evelyn and I stood on the balcony, city lights twinkling like confessions. "What now?" I asked, wind tousling my hair. She smiled, that whiskey-warm gaze steady. "Now? We live. Fully. Together." The ending wasn't grand. No cinematic vows, no erased scars. It was humanistic. Two women scarred and strong, choosing each other daily amid life's quiet dramas. Betrayal had forged us, conflict clarified, climax revealed. In the end, love, lesbian, layered, luminous, proved not a storm but a steady sun. Months later, at our first joint opening in a No Valley gallery, I unveiled the centerpiece. A diptych. One panel, Evelyn and Sarah on that foggy beach, reimagined in vibrant oils, joy eternal. The other, us on Rhonda's cliffs, hands clasped against the gorge, faces alight with tomorrow. Crowds murmured, but we stood apart, fingers brushing. "You changed everything," I whispered. She leaned in, lips to my ear. "We did. Together." And in that gallery, under San Francisco's forgiving sky, our story settled. Not ended but begun anew. A testament. Love, in all its dramatic, emotional, romantic grace, heals what it breaks.